This past year, life has confronted us with challenges like no other in my recent memory. There is sudden change. Our health, our jobs, our income, our investments, our stability, and our safety. We have experienced severe climate changes, political unrest, and rioting in a number of cities. We may be angry and even fearful about these events. If we do not remain observant, these emotions may define our lives, but they are not who we are. We have simply moved out of alignment with who we really are. So it is logical that we might ask, well then, who am I? Why am I here? After all that has happened, how do I handle this? To answer those questions, I think we need to remind ourselves of the beginning of our story in Genesis, when God calls Abraham and says, Lech Lecha. According to Rabbi Rami Shapiro, a rabbi of liberal Judaism, if all God intended to say was go forth from your land physically, there would be no reason for the word Lecha, which is to yourself. Essentially, God was saying, go forth to find out who you are meant to be. So beyond a physical journey, there is also the journey into the self. We continue that journey during Rosh HaShanah by returning to where we are in our lives currently. How do we do this? We start with prayer and meditation. We do both collectively to reinforce the feeling that we are all one in this together. We also move into a period of self-examination, remembering the blessings in our lives. Because if we forget our blessings, our concentration may rest on our suffering, which generates a perceived separation from God. We do need to start with our blessings, so we align ourselves more intensely with God's benevolent nature. Now, Rebbe Nachman, the founder of the Breslov Hasidic movement in the late 1700s, has said, all the world is a narrow bridge, and the essential thing is not to be afraid. Yet if I fear and resist the sharp edges of my life experiences, if you will, if I immerse myself in that suffering rather than allowing it to take me somewhere, I feel that the narrow bridge of the world that I am traveling will break, and I won't be able to continue. Rabbi Alan Liu, author of the book This Is Real and You Are Completely Unprepared, states, what makes our differences real is that they happen to us and we are completely unprepared. In other words, no matter how prepared we might think we might be, nothing we have done prepares us for this point. As Rabbi Liu further states, this year some of us will die and some of us will live, and all of us will change, end quote. I would like to add to the rabbi's thought that even though change is inevitable, depending on our approach, growth is still an option. By that I mean, will I let any suffering define me or transform me? If my struggles define who I am, I may have change within my life, but the new experiences will be the same as the old ones because I haven't transcended the lessons given to me. Our struggles may appear the same, but they are different based on the unique qualities we have. The common factor of resiliency intertwines itself within all these struggles, although we may not be aware of it at the time. I view resiliency as an innate spontaneity arising from God consciousness. Our physical and mental challenges cannot extinguish it. It remains for us to acknowledge and return to this valuable force within all of us. When I worked at the First Presbyterian Church in Lake Forest, I received a Get Well card from the Reverend Christine Chakoyan while recuperating from a cervical spinal fusion in 2013. I still have this card because at a time when I was in excruciating pain for 1.5 years, her message hit home and is now even more relevant this year. There is a picture of a buffalo on the cover, and she wrote on the inside, "This card reminds me of the tenacity embedded in creation. That which is endangered, whether wild species or human spirit, can be summoned to new resiliency, even in the face of threat." Our common bonds depend on our not labeling ourselves by our differences to such an extreme that we lose this idea that we are all divine sparks, displaying different manifestations of God's essence. Perhaps this is why the song Return Again is part of our services. As the lyric states, return to who you are. We have forgotten, and we are called to remember again. We examine at this time the wayward steps we have taken and write ourselves into a new book where we return to God. It is through the process of self-examination we shed our illusions, our self-deceptions, and awaken again to discover the resiliency which shines in all of us. The sound of the shofar at Rosh HaShanah is a vital ritual that awakens and invites us to return to who we all are. As our prayer book for Rosh Hashanah states, Tekiah. I started off whole. Shevarim. Then I became broken. Teruah. I was entirely smashed to pieces. Tekiah. But I shall be whole again. As Reverend Christine Chikoyan further stated, may you find deep in your own soul the strength of the Creator, whose breath and will course through you still. This is my wish for all of us during this time of reflection and return. Shana Tova.